A good understanding of rhythm is really important for all genres of music, but it's particularly important for Indian music because, as I've mentioned in previous episodes in this series, Indian music is a modal style of music, which means there is a fixed root note called sa, and it's played throughout the piece, often with extra notes such as pa, the fifth, or ma, the fourth, and they provide a harmonic reference to which all the other notes are compared. So there are no chord changes or harmonic movement throughout the piece. In Western music, harmonic movement or changes in chords are often used to resolve a section or an entire piece of music, and it's called a cadence. And cadences often leave no doubt that there is some form of a conclusion. So without chords, how do you resolve a section of music or a phrase? Well, you could just stop, but that's fairly abrupt and doesn't give the listener any hint that it's coming. So instead, what's commonly used is a rhythmic version of a cadence called a tihai. So like those three chords I played before, a tihai is a rhythmic and melodic phrase played 3 times, with the end of the 3rd time landing on an important beat in the rhythmic cycle, normally the first beat, called sum. In this video, I'll be demonstrating how to construct tihais and give you some examples, and I'll do the examples in rag Charukeshi, just because I love it. The notes of Charukeshi are the 5th mode of the melodic minor scale, and in the key of A, they sound like this. And if you're fairly new to guitar and are really only familiar with the bottom end of it, that's fine too, because all the open strings are in that scale. So any phrase can be a tihai, you just have to work out when to start it so that the last one ends on the first beat of the cycle. So here's a really simple example of a phrase that you can turn into a tihai. So the phrase was 5 beats long. If you play that 3 times with a 1 beat gap, makes 17 beats. And there is a 16 beat cycle in India called teen tal, which is really commonly used. So this tihai works really well. It starts on the first beat, and then after 17 beats, it will land on the first beat of the next cycle. The general formula for what I just played is this, where P is the length of the phrase, G is the length of the gaps, and T is the length of the rhythmic cycle, in this case teen tal, which is 16 beats. But what about if the phrase and the gaps added together made a number that was smaller than 17? Then you would need to play something else for a little while before you start the tihai so that it lands on the first beat. Say for example you wanted to make the gap of this 5 beat phrase 0. Then you would need to add a phrase that's 2 beats long at the beginning before you start. So what about if the phrase you're playing is longer, so the tihai takes more than 17 beats? Add more cycles. If I made the gap between these 5-note phrases, say 3 beats long, then the total would be 21 beats, and that's bigger than 17, so you have to then add another cycle, so it would be 33 that it finishes in. So I have to add another 12 beats at the beginning so that it lines up. And finally, you might want to play more than 1 note per beat because the rhythm cycle might be slower, in which case you would add another factor into the formula here. So now we have a general equation for how to make a tihai. Now I realise some of you will be wanting to pause the video to write this down, and others will be wanting to mash the thumbs down button and stop watching in disgust because of all the mathematical formulae. But I encourage both groups out there to bear with me, because this is all going to get intuitive very soon through doing some examples. And I encourage you to do these examples yourself too, because doing it is what's going to start to develop this intuition the most. So I'll play some examples over one cycle of tintal, so 16 beats. But I'll play 2 notes per beat, so the right hand side will be 33. And to make it clearer what's going on, I'll play all the intro phrases as descending lines, and then I'll play all the tihai phrases as ascending lines. Generally speaking, if you make the phrases and the gaps both an odd number of beats, it makes them easier to play. But if you make one or other of them an even number of beats, then it offsets the middle phrase from the rhythm and gives it more tension, more rhythmic tension. And that means it functions more like the 5 chord of a perfect cadence, giving that sense of harmonic tension. You can also nest tihais inside one another too. That's commonly called a chakradar, with 1 or 2 layers of nesting. And as an example, I'll do a chakradar in honor of this very strange year we're in, 2020. We'll start with a 10-beat cycle called japtal, and then I'll do 2 cycles making 20 beats, and then 4 notes per beat, which makes 80 beats. And then you add an extra 1 to land on the first beat of next cycle. Can't wait to get to 2021. But so now we have 20, 20, 20, 21. And that adds up to 81 beats. So that's 9 squared. You could actually do a tihai of 9 beats and do that 9 times, but that would be pretty boring. So instead, on the outer tihai, let's make a gap of 3, and that makes a tihai length of 25 beats. And then inside each one of those 25, I'll then make another tihai with a phrase of 3, a gap of 2, and then that leaves 12 more beats for the intro. So altogether, that sounds like this. So with the help of tihais and chakradars, we've made 2020 beautiful once more. And that's all for now. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and leave a comment if there's something you'd like to see me cover in a future video. Big thanks to all of my supporters over on Patreon. If you'd like to join them and get access to bonus material, including all the tablature from this video, the link is in the description. And to all of you, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.